Hi, welcome to the SFBC Board file sharing presentation. I'm going to try to move fast to keep this short, but we also have it all written down in a handy FAQ, which I'll show you where that is in a second. So, the basic story of this is goodbye Google Docs, hello Dropbox, for all our file sharing needs. The reason we're moving away from Google Docs, there's basically four reasons. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but all of this is written up on the FAQ. Fundamentally, the organization scheme is crap, and it's a pain to manage multiple logins, and there's too many steps to create documents and do that properly, and very few people do. So what is Dropbox, since that is what we are positioning as the big solution? And I think it's much easier. Dropbox is basically a magic shared folder that gets put on your Mac or Windows machine and stays in sync with a website. But there's some cool stuff about it that make it perfect for us. So let's watch a handy video. Here is a Mac desktop. And I've installed Dropbox. So if we go to the home directory for this user, the user is deep test, doesn't really matter. So go to this user's home directory. You'll see there's a snazzy Dropbox folder with a little green check that shows you that it's magic. I'll tell you what the green check really means. Dropbox also installs a shortcut in your favorites and a pop-down menu, and all of this is very similar on Windows, so don't fret, Windows users. So let's go into the Dropbox folder so that we can see how this works. If you open the Dropbox folder, it looks largely like any other folder on your Mac, and it works largely like that, but it has these little green checks. The cool thing about the Dropbox folder is if we go to the Dropbox.com website, and normally you'd have to log in, but I've already logged in, so it remembers me. So it goes right to my Dropbox folder on the website, and you can see that the same contents that are in my Dropbox folder on my desktop are in my Dropbox folder on the website. And therein lies the magic. It keeps these two in sync. So anything I copy into this Dropbox folder just automatically goes to the website. And there's even more to it. But here's a little image, and I'm going to drag this image just by way of showing you into my Dropbox folder. Nothing big, same as ever, but you see this little green check appears, and that means it's been copied up to the website. So if we go back to the web and then refresh, voila, you will see that that image is also up on my website. Now the other part that you don't quite see is that any other computers I have also get that image automatically. They just automatically get downloaded into their Dropbox folder on those computers. That's huge. Now I'm going to go to the other big important feature of Dropbox, which is sharing. So here's a folder in my Dropbox folder, and I have marked this as a shared folder. And I'm going to show you how you do that, not that you're going to need to. But if you go to the shared folder, if you right click, you can get to these options. And this shows that I have shared this folder, SFBC test, with 5 other people. And what that means is anything I put in that folder gets copied up to my Dropbox, but it also gets copied to all of those other people's Dropbox on the web, and then automatically gets copied down to their machines. So here's a handy picture of Trixie, my Triceratops. I'm going to copy it by way of demonstration into the SFBC test folder. And when that check appears, that means that Dropbox is done copying it up to the Dropbox website. And also it means that it's available to all of those other users. So we're going to go switch to another user and show you that. Oh, but first I should show you, this is the contents of my SFBC test folder. There's my Trixie picture. Okay, so now we're going to switch to a different user. Ta-da! Here we are on another Mac of mine, and I have a different user account here. So we're going to go to the Dropbox folder for this user. In the home directory, there's Dropbox. Notice that this user has a different set of folders because their Dropbox folder is different. They are on a different account. But they have this shared SFBC test folder. Inside it, voila, our little Trixie. So, and notice that they didn't go to the website or anything. It just was automatically downloaded to their machine. So anytime you log on, you'll see Dropbox doing some stuff, and that's it, getting you in sync with whatever's up on the Dropbox website. So therein lies the magic of Dropbox. Let's recap. Dropbox is a free internet service that creates a magic folder on your computer or any smartphones, iPad, iPhone, and even lame Android phones. This folder, it gets linked to the Dropbox website and also all your other computers and phones that have Dropbox. Dropbox keeps this folder in sync across all of them automatically. So basically anything you change in that folder or add to that folder or even remove from that folder gets changed everywhere else. And this is all super awesome, but there's one more big feature which we showed you, and that is the file sharing feature, the folder sharing feature. So you can share any folder inside your Dropbox folder with other users, and anything you put in that folder gets shared to all those other users that you've listed as a shared user. And those other users don't have to download or do anything to get your changes. Just the next time they're on their computer, they just get automatically downloaded into those users' Dropbox folders. And that is the key to how we're going to be using Dropbox for the SFBC board. So let's do a video showing you the nitty-gritty of how that works. This is going to be a little long, but it should be very explanatory. I'm going to move kind of fast, but I think you'll figure it out. Okay, so here is my user, and I'm going to go, this is my real machine actually, I'm going to go look at the Dropbox folder on this guy, and every board member is going to have something similar. So here's my Dropbox folder, and you'll notice that it's big and messy. There's lots of stuff in it because I'm actually using Dropbox in my real life. For example, here's some images I have, so here's some other folders, but there is, the SFBC board folder that every board member will have. And this is where we're going to do all of our great SFBC stuff. We have a little text document and then these 4 folders. The text document is just explaining what these 4 folders are about, which I'm about to do. We have these 4 folders are the important ones: committees, general board meetings, miscellaneous, and official files. And honestly, these first 2 are the most important: committees and general board meetings. Committees, inside it has one folder for every board subcommittee, and I'll go explain those more in a second. General board meetings has one folder for every board meeting, plus an archives folder where we keep old, the past year's board meetings. Official files is the next most important one. Let's switch to a list view to make this a little clearer. It has all the big important documents, so strategic plan, bylaws, roster, and it also has an archives where we keep the older versions of these documents. Miscellaneous is where we put anything else that we don't know where it goes if we ever come across such documents. But right now, this is where I keep the FAQ that I mentioned earlier. This is where you can go and read this if you have more questions or want to hear this all more slowed down. These 2, like I said, are the most important ones, so we're going to spend some time here. Let's go look at the committees folder. Every board subcommittee has their own folder, and we can make more as needed. Finance is a good example. Here you can see where we put current finance documents. Here's the January 2012 draft financial statement. Here's the February 2012 draft financial statement. But in addition, you can add any new files you want. And then we have archives where we keep the past year's important documents for safekeeping, so you can always come back to them. And each subcommittee is kind of laid out the same. Endorsements doesn't have any documents yet, but it does have archives of old endorsement stuff, etc., etc., etc. General board meetings has one folder for everyone. So here's the March 2012 board meeting. And the idea here is that you put every document that we present at that board meeting in this folder. So for example, there's a budget summary. Here's the January 2012 retreat minutes that were presented at the March board meeting. Agenda, membership dashboard, etc., etc., etc. So that's the big 2. And now we're going to actually use them like normal board members. So here's the demo. Let's say we had an endorsement meeting on the other night, May 5th, and we just made some endorsement notes. So I am going to type up the notes for these meetings. So I just go create a document on my computer like any time I want to, and I already have this, so I just cut and pasted it in. But here you can see my notes for that meeting. Basically, we decided to endorse me as president for everything for the June 2012 election, and our meeting was on May 5th, as I said. So now I can just save that document like any other document I'd be making on my computer. Save it anywhere on my computer I want. and if I can spell endorsements properly, it'll be a big win. So there you go, and now I save it. And so here you can see I've saved it to my computer, and now I'm ready to share it with the board. So this is super easy, pretty much 2 steps. You just put it where you want it. This is a committee meeting, and I go into the endorsements folder in my Dropbox SFBC Board, and I just drag it in there. And boom, there it's done. It's actually now shared with everybody, and they're going to get copies of it. But the next step is super important. I really want you to do it, is make it comply with our naming convention. And we'll explain that in more detail later. But basically, it's the date and then the title. So you can see it was 2012-05-05, that was the meeting, and June 2012 endorsements is the title. And now everyone can find it and know what it means. And that is how a committee member would use this. The other big use case is for general board meetings. Let's say, you can see over on the right, we have an April program report that, say, Leah wrote, and she wants to put it in share it with everyone. Well, the first thing she has to do is make the folder for this April meeting that we had. Obviously, we didn't really have one. So she makes the 2012-04 folder in the general board meetings, and now she can just copy her file in there. And lastly, she needs to make her file comply to the naming convention. So it was this April meeting, so 2012.04.programreport.text. That's it. It's done. And now on everybody else's machine, they have access to this. It automatically gets downloaded. But by way of showing you, let's go to the Dropbox, my Dropbox website, and see what we got. So there's my Dropbox folder. Here's my SFBC Board folder. Inside it, let's go to Committees, Endorsements Committee, and, whoops, clicked on the wrong one. Voila, there's my document. And it has the same text. We decided to endorse Deep for President of Everything for the June 2012 election. I think it's a good plan. Let's also go look at the general board meetings. So here is our fictitious April meeting, and here is Leah's fictitious program report. And they're all up on the web automatically. I didn't do any actual copying to the web. I just put them in my folder on my machine, which feels a lot like just organizing your hard drive like you do for normal. So that is how the SFBC is going to use Dropbox. It's going to be much, much easier. So let's recap. You create your documents on your computer. You copy the document to the appropriate folder in your SFBC Board folder that lives inside your Dropbox folder. And if you need to make additional folders inside the SFBC Board folder, you can. Hopefully my organizational scheme will all work out. You do rename your file in keeping with the naming convention, and we're going to talk more about that in a second. But it's basically date and title and doc type. And if you have any problems, don't fret it. Just copy the file structure you already see there and the names you already see there, and it'll all probably work out. So without further ado, let's talk about this naming convention that really is important. The naming convention is going to be the key to keeping our files organized going forward. And it makes it possible to understand what all of our files are at a glance, which is important. And it's increasingly important as board members come and go. When you are gone and we need to figure out what those files were, it's good to have a naming convention. So the basic format is publish date, content date, publish date or content date, I should say, and the title of the document, and then the doc type as usual. So let's drill down on this. The publish date, content date is the critical part for organization, in that that's how everything is going to sort. And so it must be written in this format. 4 characters for the year, dot, 2 characters for the month, and then optionally you can put another dot and 2 characters for the day. Sometimes that will be important, other times it won't be important. Figuring out which date to use for the document can be a little weird at first, but you'll figure it out. It's basically the date the document was made or modified, usually. Sometimes it's the date the document is about, and we'll see how this looks. But when you're trying to decide which date is important, just consider what is relevant about that document. What is the glanceable information someone will need to know? So here's a simple example. If we were making the program report for the March 2012 board meeting, it should be this, March 2012, so 2012.03, and then program report. So there's only one relevant date about this date and this document, and that is the time of the program report. Sorry, the time of the meeting. A complex example is at many of our board meetings we present the prior minutes for the prior board meeting. So for example, we presented the January 2012 retreat minutes at the March 2012 board meeting. So that has two relevant dates, and it would look like this: 2012-03 for the meeting we're presenting it at, and then we just write in the title what the January part, January 2012 retreat minutes, which is pretty easy to figure out what this document is about at that point. A few more words about the title. It should be accurate and succinct as possible, just to, like I said, glanceably explain what the document is about. Please try to avoid putting SFBC in the title. It's obviously about the SFBC. There's a few times where you'll need SFBC in the title, especially for documents that are going to go external. But in general, if you put SFBC in the title, you've failed. Avoid duplication of info in the title. There's a lot of that. I cleaned up a bunch. But yeah. And spaces are really good in the title. You don't need to use lots of weird dashes and stuff. Just don't use them in the date and we'll be fine. The date has to be in that format I laid out. And when in doubt, just follow what's already there. That will get you through all of this, I think. And if you have any questions, just go ahead and put your document up in our Dropbox, but email me and I can rename it as necessary or help you. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to go over some last minute tips and tricks, and then you are off to the races. Dropbox does support versions. That was one question. You just need to right-click or option-click on the Mac and select it in the Dropbox menu. So here's me right-clicking on the how to use this document. And you can see the menus that come up, and there's the view previous version. That'll take you to the website where you have access to the previous versions of the documents. It's kind of rudimentary, but it's probably good enough. You can look at them, you can revert to older versions, stuff like that. Dropbox is available for smartphones, so this means your iPhone, your iPad, or your lame Android phone. But this is super helpful. Dropbox is also available on the web for any computer, so this means you can access your Dropbox files pretty much anywhere you are, which is super nice. And also, if we need to make private folders for subcommittees, for example, the board development committee needs one where it's not everybody on the board has access because there's some sensitive information. Those are pretty easy to do, but you should probably talk to me rather than just make one because the board secretary probably needs to have access to it as well. Finally, Dropbox turns out to be very happy useful, especially if you have multiple computers or if you have a smartphone and a computer. So I highly recommend watching the video on the Dropbox.com website for how you can use Dropbox in your everyday life. And that is that. If you have any questions, please do send me an email, but I think this will all work out really well. Thanks. Bye.